Namaskar, Om Shakti Hrim, Namah Shiva, Om Namo Narayana. The Linga Purana Part 3. Hiranyanatra was very strong and powerful. He conquered the three worlds and drove the gods out of heaven. He even took the ass down to the underworld. In desperation the gods prayed to Vishnu for deliverance. Vishnu adopted the form of a bull, Varaha, and went down to the underworld in search of Hiranyanatra. When he found the Asura, he killed him with his Sudarshana chakra. He also killed several other Asuras with his bow's tusk. Then he lifted up the ass with his tusk and replaced it where it should be. So far as Hiranyanetra's kingdom was concerned, Vishnu crowned Anhaka king there. Hiranyanetra had a brother named Hiranyakashipu. This brother prayed to Brahma and obtained a boon that made him virtually impossible to kill. Armed with this boon, Hiranyakashipu conquered the three worlds and drove the gods out of heaven. The gods again started to pray to Vishnu for deliverance. Vishnu adopted the form of a lion and entered Hiranyakashipu's capital. The lion had a huge mane and sharp teeth and claws. The lion killed several Asuras, and then this news was brought to Hiranyakashipu. He decided to kill the lion. Hiranyakashipu had several sons, one of whom was named Prahlada. Prahlada alone thought that there was something fishy about the lion and about the way it had suddenly appeared. He thought that the lion might very well be Vishnu in disguise. Prahlada therefore tried to dissuade his father from fighting the lion, but Hiranyakashipu was in no mood to listen. He first asked some of his soldiers to capture the lion, but they were all killed. Hiranyakashipu then himself attacked the lion with all sorts of weapons. But all the weapons were exhausted, and the demon could do the lion no harm. Finally, the lion grasped Hiranyakashipu and tore the Asura's heart out with his claws. This was the Narasimha, half man, half lion, incarnation of Vishnu. Having killed Hiranyakashipu, Vishnu crowned Prahlada king. Anhaka had been crowned king in the Hiranyanetra's kingdom. Prahlada and Anhaka's other cousins went to him and said, "You are blind. What are you going to do with the kingdom? Give it to us. Our uncle made a mistake in accepting a blind son from Shiva." Anhaka was very hurt at these nasty words. He went away to the forest and started to perform tapasya. He prayed to Brahma. For millions of years he stood on one leg with his arms raised high and prayed. No one since that day has been able to duplicate Anhaka's wonderful feat of meditation. He did not eat or drink at all. He chopped off parts of his body and offered it to the sacrificial fire. It came to such a pass that there was no more meat of blood left in his body. It had all been offered to the fire. He was just a skeleton. It was then that Brahma appeared before him and offered a boon. "Prahlada and my other cousins have taken over my kingdom," said Anhaka. "Please grant me the boon that I may be able to see. Please also grant me the boon that I may not be killed by gods, demons or humans, or even by the great Vishnu himself." Brahma was in a fix. Early, many demons had asked for similar boons, but they had generally not mentioned Vishnu, so that when the need arose, Vishnu had been able to kill them. But here was an Asura who was asking for the boon that even Vishnu would not be able to kill him. This would make him virtually immortal. "Everything that you have asked for is possible," replied Brahma, "but all beings have to die. Indicate the circumstance under which you will die and the boons will be granted." "Since I have to die," said Anhaka, "let it be under the following conditions. If I ever wish to marry a beautiful woman who is like a mother unto me, let it that be that hour appointed for my death." This condition was better than nothing at all, and Brahma granted Anhaka the boons. Anhaka returned to his kingdom. When Prahlada and the other cousins learned that Anhaka had become so powerful because of the boon, they not only returned to him his own kingdom, but theirs as well. Remember that Anhaka could now see. The first thing that Anhaka did was to invade heaven. He defeated Indra and the other gods and made them pay tax to the demons. Next he defeated the snakes, the Gandharvas, the Rakshasas, the Yakshas, and the humans. Thus he began to rule over all these worlds. For millions of years Anhaka ruled in the fashion. The religion of the Vedas suffered during the period, since Anhaka paid no attention to it. Once Anhaka went to a visit to the Mount Mandara. The place was so beautiful that he made up his mind to live there. 3 of Anhaka's generals were named Duryodhana, Vikhasa, and Hasti. These 3 were exploring the environment of Mount Mandara when they came upon a cave. A ascetic was meditating inside the cave. He was dressed in the skin of a tiger, wore a garland of skull. His hair was matted and he wore a crescent moon on his forehead. There was a beautiful woman near the ascetic. He was more beautiful than any other woman in the 3 worlds. The 3 generals concluded that this was the right wife for Anhaka. When the generals came back to Anhaka and reported on what they had seen, the Asura king said, "What are you waiting for? Go to ascetic and ask him for the woman." Duryodhana, Vikhasa, and Hasti went back to the ascetic. "You are only an ascetic," they said. "You don't deserve such a pretty wife. While our master is a lord of everything and he is immensely rich, he is also handsome because of a boon received from Brahma. Give us this woman so that our master Anhaka may marry her." "Ask your master to come and take the woman himself," replied Shiva. For the ascetic you have already guessed was none other than Shiva, and the beautiful woman was Parvati. As soon as he had this, Anhaka grasped his sword and came to fight with Shiva. The door to the cave was guarded by Nandi, and Anhaka first had to fight with him. Nandi easily defeated the Asura and also defeated the Asura soldiers who had accompanied this king. But Anhaka returned and again a fight raged with Nandi for 500 years. Brahma, Vishnu, Indra and the other gods also came to help in the fight with the demons. The general Vikhasa was a very strong warrior. He opened his mouth wide and swallowed up all the gods, including Vishnu. So far Shiva himself had not played any part in the fighting. But hearing what Vikhasa had done, he extended his bow and came out to fight. He killed Vikhasa and rescued the gods from the Asura's stomach. The Asuras had a preceptor named Shukracharya, who knew the art of bringing back dead beings to life. So Shukracharya moved around the battlefield, bringing back to life any demons that were killed. There was no helping the cause of the gods at all. Shiva's companions captured Shukracharya and brought him to Shiva. Shiva promptly swallowed up Shukracharya. Soon all the demons were taken care of, with the exception of Anhaka. He continued to fight. Vishnu mace could do him no harm, and he only laughed at Indra's arrows. Some of the arrows did pierce the Asura's body, but whenever drops of blood from his body fell onto the ground, Asuras who were exactly like him in appearance were created from this blood. As a result, the battlefield was soon populated with thousands and thousands of Anhakas. Shiva created a goddess known as Devi from his own body. Devi was appointed the task of drinking up the blood of the Asuras before it could spill out onto the ground. Thus, aided by Devi, Shiva started to tackle the demons, and soon there was only the original Anhaka left. Shiva flung a trident at him. The trident struck Anhaka on the chest, and the Asura king fell down dead. When the war was over, Shukracharya prayed to Shiva and was released from Shiva's stomach. There was another demon who wanted to marry Parvati as well. His name was Guru. He happened to see Parvati and decided that this was the woman who would be his wife. He began to perform tapasya so that his desire might be satisfied. Brahma appeared before him and asked, Guru, why are you performing such difficult tapasya? Can I offer you a boon? I wish to marry Parvati, replied Guru. Grant me that boon. That is boon that not even I can grant you, said Brahma. Brahma departed and Guru continued with this meditation. This meditation was going on in a mountain named Malaya. And such was the power of Guru's meditation that the mountain started to burn. The fires were so strong that even Shiva and Parvati had to run away from the mountain. Lord, why are you running away? Asked Parvati. Why don't you do something about the fire? I can't, answered Shiva. This fire is on account of Guru's tapasya and he is performing this tapasya so as to marry you. It is up to you to do something about Guru. Parvati decided that she would. While they were conversing, they saw a lion fighting with an elephant. Parvati slew the lion and skinned it. She wore the lion's pelt as clothing. Her hair became smeared with the lion's blood. Her appearance became terrible. With a thunderous roar, Parvati went to where Guru was. Guru, she said, I have come. I am Parvati. I am the one who have been praying for you, not stop meditating. Rubbish, replied the demon. Parvati is beautiful. Her face is like the moon. Her hue is a golden, and her arms are like lotus stems. Just look at yourself. Your looks are terrible. You can't be Parvati. You are lying. Go away. I don't want you. Saying this, Guru struck Parvati with a mace. Parvati was angry at this and she hit Guru with her fist. The two fought, with Guru flinging boulders and trees at the goddess. Parvati used her nails and her teeth to get at the demon. Guru created several other asuras from his body. In retaliation, Parvati created many goddesses known as Shaktis from her body. The Shaktis began to eat up the demons. Guru fled, but Parvati pursued him to the end of the earth. He fled to heaven, Parvati followed him there. He fled to the underworld, but Parvati pursued him there as well. Finally, Guru could flee no more. Parvati caught hold of him and tore off his head with her nails. She then drank the demon's blood. Parvati also skinned the demon. Thus it was that Guru was killed. On her return to Shiva, Parvati gave him the lion's pelt that she had so far been wearing, and Shiva donned it. For her one clothing, Parvati put on a Guru's skin. Shiva had once gone on a visit to a city named Shonitapura. He was accompanied by many Gandharvas and Apsaras. Parvati was left behind in Kailasha and Shiva felt lonely without her. He called Nandi and said, Go to Kailasha and ask Parvati to come here. Nandi went to Kailasha and told Parvati that Shiva wanted her. Parvati said that this would take a little time since she wanted to get ready first. Nandi went back and reported to Shiva what Parvati had said. Shiva waited for a little while, but Parvati did not come. He therefore sent Nandi again to Kailasha with the injunction that he should not come back without Parvati. The Apsaras meanwhile decided they would play a trick on Shiva. One of them would disguise herself and pretend to be Parvati. An Apsara named Chitraletha agreed to do this. Another Apsara named Urvashi disguised herself as Nandi. Other Apsaras disguised themselves as companions of Parvati. So good were they disguised that it was impossible to detect them as being false. The false Nandi then brought the false Parvati to Shiva and said, Parvati has come. Her companions, the other goddesses, have also come. Shiva was delighted. he was not able to detect that this was a false Parvati. While they were having great fun, the real Parvati, the real Nandi, and the real goddesses turned up, and there was utter confusion. No one could tell the real ones from the false one. Finally, the mess was sorted out when the Apsaras adopted their real forms. Neither Shiva nor Parvati were angry at this practical joke. This is an accident from the time when Parvati went away to do tapasya, so as to become fair. Before going away to meditate, she called Nandi to her and said, "My husband does not know the difference between real Parvatis and false ones. Keep careful guard at the gate and do not let any false Parvatis enter." There was an asura named Adi. He performed tapasya and wanted a boon from Brahma which would make him immortal. Brahma refused to grant him this, but granted him the boon that Adi would be very strong. Happy with this boon, Adi wandered around the Himalayas and discovered Nandi standing guard at the gate of the Shiva's palace. "What are you doing here?" the asuras asked Nandi. Nandi reported the conversation that had taken place with Parvati. The demon went away, but he soon returned, this time disguised as Parvati. Lest Nandi not let him pass, he slimed through the gate disguised as a snake. And once inside the palace, he resumed his form as of Parvati. He then went to meet Shiva. Shiva did not realize that this was a false Parvati, and he came forward to embrace Adi. But no sooner had Shiva embraced him than the Asura adopted his own form and tried to kill Shiva. The two fought and Shiva killed Adi. But before dying, the Asura played another trick. He told Shiva, "I have a brother who is stronger than me. He will return here in the form of Parvati and kill you." This was a blatant lie. Adi had no brother. The real Parvati returned after finishing her tapasya. But Shiva thought that this was a demon disguised as Parvati. He created many beings from his body so as to kill Parvati. But Parvati also created many beings from her own body, and this swallowed up Shiva's beings. When this had gone 1,000 times, Shiva realized that this must be the real Parvati. Shiva and Parvati were united. There were no more false Parvatis. The sage Sanat Kumara was Brahma's son. Sanat Kumara had gone to visit Yama, the god of death. While they were conversing, a shining Vimana brought a man to Yama, who immediately stood up to honor the guest. Yama worshipping him and said, "I'm honored, I hope you had no problems on the way. The Vimana will take you to Brahma's residence in Brahmaloka." After this guest had left, another shining Vimana brought another guest who was also worshipped in similar fashion by Yama. Sanat Kumara was mystified at this. He asked Yama, "Who are you these two people? I have never heard of Yama worshipping anyone in such glowing terms. These two must be holy men indeed. They must have accumulated a lot of punya. Who are they? Tell me their stories." Yama obliged. There was a city named Vaidisha. The king who ruled this was named Dharapala. Nandi was cursed by Parvati that he would have to spend 12 years on earth as jackal. His crime was that Parvati had gone to perform tapasya. Nandi had permitted a false Parvati to enter Shiva's palace. Nandi was born as jackal. The jackal went to the confluence of the river Vitasta and Vetravati. There it set up a linga and prayed before it, going without food and water. After the 12 years passed, the jackal died and adopted a shining form. In this form Nandi returned to Shivaloka. King Dharapala had seen the jackal fasting and praying. He also witnessed its strange death. The king's wonder knew no bounds. He erected a temple in the wonderful place. He brought several brahmanas to the temple and made them recite the Puranas there. When Harapala died, it was decided that he would go to Brahmaloka because of all this punya. This was the first guest who had come before Yama. Such are the wonderful virtues of worshipping Shiva and the Puranas. What about the second guest? Asked Sanat Kumara. The second guest used to be evil. He had never donated anything in his life. But he once had the Puranas being recited, was completely converted. He arranged many recitals of the Puranas on his own and donated gold to the reciters. This punya was going to take him to Brahmaloka. Such are the wonderful virtues of hearing and reading the Puranas. Doing this is tantamount to worshipping Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. Shatanika and Sahasranika. In the region named Jambudvipa, there used a rule or king named Shatanika. He was the best among warriors, but he was also very religious. He donated alms and treated his guests well. Every day the Brahmanas received gold and clothes from Shatanika. When Shatanika died, his son Sahasranika became king. Sahasranika also ruled well and righteously, but he did not donate as much of alms to the Brahmanas as his father used to. They took the complaint to the king and said, "You don't give us much of alms as your father used to. Many Brahmanas have already left your kingdom, so will the others unless you increase the alms you give us." I have indeed heard that the donation of alms to Brahmanas bring punya, replied Sahasranika. I have also heard that all this punya takes one to heaven after death, until the time one has to be born again. Since my father accumulated all this punya by donating alms to Brahmanas, he must be in heaven. You are all learned Brahmas. Why don't you tell me where my father is right now? The Brahmas could not reply. They had no idea where Shatanika was. But later on they met a learned sage named Bhargava. Bhargava was so powerful that the Brahmanas were sure that he would be able to tell them where Shatanika was. They begged Bhargava to help them. Bhargava was not very interested in helping the Brahmanas. He was busy meditating and had no desire to waste his time on idle pursuit like finding out where dead people now were. But the Brahmanas kept begging him and Bhargava eventually agreed. The sun god himself led the way and following the sun god. Bhargava went all the way to Yama's abode. It was a long distance away. The sun god led Bhargava straight to where the 28 scrolls of Naraka's hells were. The wailings of sinners who were being tortured could be heard. Before they could go any further, the way was barred by a Brahmana. Bhargava said the Brahmana, "You owe me a coin for service rendered. You have not paid this and I'm dead. Pay me the coin and only then can you proceed further." "I'm not carrying any coins on me," replied Bhargava. "When I return home, I will collect a coin and bring it back to you. Now let me move forward." "Nonsense," said the Brahmana. "This is hell. Here payments are strictly on a cash basis. There is no question of paying up later. Pay or you shall not proceed. If you do not have any coins, why then pay me 1/6 of all the punya that you have earned through your meditation." Bhargava paid what was asked for and edged forward. He was successfully stopped by a cowherd and washerman and tailor, a priest and a builder. To each of them Bhargava owed some money and they would not let him go until the debts were cleared. In each case Bhargava parted with 1/6 of his punya so that he was left with none at all. When these accounts were settled, the sun god led Bhargava to the hell where Shatanika was. Bhargava was bewildered to find such a righteous king as Shatanika in hell. The king was hung upside down in a pot and was being boiled in oil. Bhargava asked Shatanika, "What is all this? Why are you in hell? You had accumulated a lot of punya through your righteous deeds." "Not really," replied the king. "I did donate a lot of alms, especially to brahmanas. But all the monies for the alms came from taxing my subjects civilly. So it brought no punya at all. Go and tell my son that punya is the best acquired associating with the righteous people. And most important of all, tell him to pray to Shiva in the month of Chaitra." When Bhargava returned, he related what he had been told to Sahasranika. Sahasranika did not stop donating alms, but the money for such alms no longer came out of the royal treasury. The king worked as a laborer and used this money for the donation of alms. He also observed the vrata that his father had asked him to observe in honor of Shiva. There was a king named Gadhi. His daughter was named Satyavati. Satyavati was married to the sage Richika. Richika arranged for a spectacular sacrifice. Some rice pudding was obtained from the yajna, and Richika gave it to his wife Satyavati. He said, "Split this rice pudding into the two halves. Eat half yourself and give the remaining half to your mother. Here, let me divide it. This is your half and that is your mother's. We are brahmanas, so we'll have a son who will display the traits of brahmana. Your father is a kshatriya and your mother will have a son who will behave like a kshatriya." Saying this, Richika went off to meditate in the forest. But mother and daughter managed to mix up their halves. In the course of his meditation, Richika realized that Satyavati was going to give birth to a brahmana son who would display kshatriya traits. Through his powers, he managed to postpone this birth by a generation. So Satyavati gave birth to Jamadagni. It was Jamadagni's son Parashurama, who exhibited all the kshatriyas-like characteristic. Gadhi's son was Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra was born a kshatriya, but because of mixing up of the rice pudding, Vishwamitra turned out to be Brahmana-like. There was a king of the Halyk dynasty named Arjuna. He had 1,000 arms. He had also obtained the boon that flaming fire itself would be perpetually present on the tip of his arrow. Whenever he shot an arrow, the fire from the tip of the arrow burned up the target. In this fashion, Sahasra Arjuna used to burn up villages, cities and forests. He once burned up the hermitage of sage. And one of the sages cursed Arjuna that he would be killed by Parashurama. Parashurama learned the art of fighting from Shiva himself. While Parashurama was away learning how to fight, Arjuna arrived in Jamadagni's hermitage. Jamadagni had a wonderful cow known as Kamakkhya because it produced whatever object one asked. Using this Kamakkhya, Jamadagni treated Arjuna and his entire tenure to a royal feast. Arjuna asked Jamadagni to give him this cow, but the sage refused. Sahasra Arjuna then asked his soldiers to forcibly take away the cow. But just as this was going on, Parashurama arrived. He killed Arjuna, sliced off all Arjuna's 1,000 arms in the process. Having disposed of Arjuna, Parashurama went off to meditate and pay another visit to Shiva. Taking advantage of Parashurama's absence, Sahasra Arjuna's sons invaded Jamadagni's hermitage. They killed Jamadagni Rishi. When Parashurama returned, he exacted vengeance for this evil deed. He killed Arjuna's son. Since Arjuna and his son happened to be kshatriyas, Parashurama also killed all the kshatriyas in the world. He did this not once, but 21 times over. Why 21 times? The reason was that there were 21 weapon marks on the dead Jamadagni's body. But killing was a crime, and Parashurama had committed a sin. As penance, Parashurama donated cows and performed a lot of tapasya. He also arranged an Ashwamedha yajna. All this did not prove to be atonement enough. To complete the penance, Parashurama sought the advice of the sage Kashyapa. Kashyapa told him to perform the donation that is known as Tua Purusha. Tua is a pair of scales. The person Purusha who is performing donation is placed on one side of the weighing scale. On the other side are placed objects like honey, clarified butter, molasses, clothing and gold. The weight of the object being donated has to be equal to the weight of the person performing the donation. This is known as Tua Purusha. Parashurama performed Tua Purusha and was freed from his sin. There are several hells. Each hell is earmarked for a specific type of sinner. A killer of Brahman, a false witness, a liar, and a drinker of wine is sent to the hell named Raurava. Shukara is for chiefs and killers of cattle. Killers of Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are also sent there. Those who commit infanticide are sent to Taptaloka. A person who insults his teacher or criticizes the Vedas goes to Taptahala. Those who insult girls, brahmanas or kings are sent to Krimibharsha. Lalabharsha is reserved for those who eat without offering food to the gods. A brahmana who eats what he should not goes to Vishana. Sellers of wine are to be found in Rudhiraranha and killers of bees in Vatarani. Cheats are sent to Krishna and destroyers of trees to Asipatravana. A hunter of deer goes to Vahni Jvala. Agnimaya is for Ersonist and Sandamsha for those who fail to complete a vrata. If you accept your son as a teacher, you are sure to go to Svabhajana. The punishment is strictly in proportion to the crime committed, but penance diminishes the severity of the sin. The best form of penance is a prayer to Shiva. Even if one merely remembers Shiva, that is enough. The earth is divided into 7 regions, dvipas. The name of these regions are Jambudvipa, Purashadvipa, Shalmadvipa, Kushadvipa, Kraunchadvipa, Pushkaradvipa, and Shakadvipa. These 7 regions are surrounded by 7 seas. The name of the seas are Lavana, Ikshu, Sharpi, Dadhi, Dudha, Java, and Rasa. Mount Shumeru is right in the middle of Jambudvipa. To the north of Shumeru are the mountains Nila and Shvetabhangi, and to the south of Shumera are the mountains. Jambudvipa is divided into many parts, Varshas. Right in the center where Mount Shumera is located is Ilavrita Varsha. To the south of Shumeru are Bharata Varsha, Kimpurta Varsha, and Hari Varsha. To the north of Shumeru is Ramakyaka Varsha. Next to this is Hiranyama Varsha, and further north is Uttara Kuru Varsha. The 4 major mountains in Ilavrita Varsha are Mandara, Ganhabadada, Vipua, and Supar Varsha. They are respectively to the east, south, west, and north of Shumeru. Bhadrashvarsha is to the east of Shumeru, and Ketumala Varsha to the west. On the top of Mount Shumeru is Brahma's famous city. The holy river Ganga flows through the sky and divides into 4. The names of these tributaries are Sita, Alakananda, Chakshu, and Bhadra. Sita flowers to the east of Shumeru, Nanda or Alakananda to the south, Chakshu to the west, and Bhadra to the north. Bhadravarsha is bounded by mountain ranges on the north and the sea on the south. Bharatavarsha is divided into 9 parts. The names of 8 of these parts are Indradyumna, Kasheru, Tampraparna, Saumya, Gamha Stimana, Nagadvipa, Gandharva and Varuna. The ninth part is an island surrounded by the ocean. On the eastern side of Bharatavarsha lived the Kiratas, on the western the Yavanas, and on the southern the Anhras, and on the northern the Turakshas. The 7 major mountains in Bharatavarsha are named Mahendra, Mavaya, Sakya, Shuktimana, Riksha, Vimhya and Pariyatra. From each of these mountains several rivers flow. Bharatavarsha is a sacred place. Only those who have accumulated punya, over 1,000 human lives, get to be born in Bharatavarsha. Shiva is always present here to offer salvation to the residents. How far do the boundaries of Huruoka extend? These boundaries extend to the furthest points that can be lit up by the rays of sun and moon. Above the region of the sun is that of moon. This is successively followed by the regions Buddha, Shukra, Mangala, Brihaspati, Shani, and the nakshatra stars. Next comes Saptarishiloka, the circle of the 7 great sages. These regions beyond the earth are known as Bhuvarloka. Beyond it is Svargaloka, heaven. Purvahloka and Svargaloka are destroyed in the destruction that comes at the end of Kalpa. Regions which are further beyond are not destroyed at the end of Kalpa. The first of these regions is Dhruvaloka, the circle of the pole star. Next come Maharloka, Jnanaloka, Tapaloka and Satyaloka. Including the earth, there are those 7 regions that have been mentioned. Under the earth is the underworld, Patala. This is also divided into 7 regions. The names are Patala, Sutala, Vitala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Itavatala. Each Manvantara is ruled over by a Manu, and there are 14 Manvantaras in any Kalpa. The gods Devas, the 7 great sages Saptarishi, and the Indra change from one Manvantara to another. Vivasvata Manu. The sages wished to know from Ramaharshana the details of Vivasvata Manu's birth. The sage Kashypa's son was Vivasvana, or the sun. The son was married to Tvashta's daughter Samjna. Vivasvana and Samjna had 3 children, Vaivasvata, Yama and Yamuna. Samjna could not, however, stand the strong energy of her husband, the sun. From her own body she created Chara, a woman who looked just like her. Samjna and Chara could not be distinguished from each other. Samjna told Chara, "Stay here and pretend to be Samjna. Look after my 3 children, Vaivasvata, Yama and Yamuna. I am going off to my father's house. Don't tell anyone that you are not Samjna." "I will do your bidding," replied Chara. "But the moment someone grabs me by the hair, I will divulge the truth." Samjna went to Tvashta's house. When she had spent quite some time there, her father got suspicious and wanted to know why she was not returning to her husband. Samjna therefore adopted the form of a mare and began to live in the kingdom that is known as Uttarakuru. Meanwhile, the sun and Chara had a son named Savarni. It was clear that Chara doted on Savarni. In comparison, Yama felt neglected. Yama was still very young, and in a fit of rage, he kicked Chara. Chara cursed Yama. Yama was very surprised at this, since no mother cursed her own son. He went and reported it to the sun. The sun deduced that Chara could not be Yama's mother. He grasped Chara by the hair, and the straws came out. The sun then went to Tvashtar in search of Samjna. It was discovered that Samjna had done all this because she could not bear the energy of her husband. Twashta chiseled off some of the sun's energy so that his radiance became muted. Learning that Samjna had adopted the form of a mare, the sun adopted the form of a horse. He went and met his wife. As horse and mare they had 2 children. These were the 13 gods known as Ashvinis. They were also known Nasatya and Dashra. Vaivasvata Manu performed a yajna, fire ritual, so as to have a son. From the sacrifice a daughter named Eva was born. Chandra's son Buddha married Eva and they had a son named Pururava. This was the origin of the lunar dynasty which started with Pururva. Later on, Vaivasvata Manu had 9 sons. Their names were Ikshvaku, Shivi, Nabhaga, Drishnu, Sharyati, Naryashyanta, Isha, Karusha and Priyavrata. These sons were the originators of the solar dynasty. The assembled sages were gratified at Ramaharshana having recited for them the Shiva Purana. They worshipped Ramaharshana, but wanted Ramaharshana never divulge what I have told you to those who are disrespectful or to those who do not believe in God. The Shiva Purana is such that hearing it or reading it makes one a devotee. All sins are forgiven. If one hears the recitation of this Purana repeatedly, Shiva himself appears in order to bless his devotees. A person who donates the Shiva Purana along with gold and a bow gets to live forever in Shiva Loka. Om Namah Shivaya. Hare Krishna. Radhe